Before we start, just a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. Only 2% are subscribed. At 1,000 subscribers, I'll be posting a special video. Her finger hit my sternum like a tiny hammer, once, twice. I lifted both hands, open and still, breath tight in my ribs. I'm Daniel Morgan, 46. This happened fast and left marks. Own it, she barked. The square hushed one notch and waited. You clipped me, she lined in until I felt the heat of it. A half circle formed, people edging closer for theater. My daughter stepped into that rim and didn't look at me. I tasted metal on my tongue and chose control over noise. I didn't touch you, calm voice, feet planted, eyes steady. A murmur rolled around us like tires over gravel, soft but building. The woman's jaw set, she wanted a show and a collapse. My daughter adjusted her backpack and cleared her throat. He did, she announced, bright, certain, facing the audience. Heads tilted toward her like sunflowers chasing light, hungry. A teenager with authority becomes a lever, push, and something moves. The woman smiled without mercy and sharpened her posture. You heard her, a little laugh bait on a hook. I locked my knees so they wouldn't telegraph fear. My daughter's cheeks flushed, adrenaline or pride, I couldn't tell. I pictured tomorrow's fallout and knew it started here. Then I'm wrong, I kept the words flat, no apology yet. Prove it, the woman snapped. She wanted a public kneel. A phone lifted close enough to catch pores and doubts. I counted 3 breaths and let my silence needle her. Say you're sorry, she tapped my chest again, quick and petty. I took half a step back, boundary set, hands still open. My daughter crossed her arms like a judge who decided. I felt my temper stir and settle like a waking dog. Sorry you felt bumped, I said, careful phrasing, careful ground. Her eyebrows shot up, the crowd liked the edge of it. That's not an apology, she glanced at my daughter for backup. My girl nodded once, a small gavel falling, verdict delivered. Try again, she folded her arms and widened her stance. A kid near us whispered, eyes lit by spectacle. I measured the costs, ego, trust, the months ahead. I'm sorry I bumped you, I said, and the price inflated. The woman bowed with a flourish, mock stagecraft, collecting laughs. My daughter peeked at a screen as if checking scores. I felt myself split, father and man, each wanting a different move. I swallowed the harsher one and held the quieter line. The woman pivoted away, content, dismissive, conflict trophy secured. People drifted but not far, still grazing for aftershocks. I waited for my daughter's eyes, they didn't come back. A thought landed hard, this wasn't over, this started something. We cleared the steps fast, her stride charged, my heart drumming behind. She flicked her screen up and angled it toward herself. I heard my own apology replay faintly from the clip. Delete it, I said, and the request felt late. She tugged the phone to her chest like a prize. It's already up, a quick grin, more nerves than joy. People were there anyway, she added, chin high for armor. I kept walking because stopping would turn to shouting. A notification chimed, then another, then a steady cascade. She scanned the names with bright, hungry eyes. Comments are rolling, she muttered, jaw tight with excitement. I pictured nightfall finding us still stuck in this. Show me, I reached out and she pulled back. You'll just be mad, she hovered over the screen. Let us be honest instead, I said, keeping my voice even. She flipped it toward me with a quick challenge. The clip paused on my face, mouth open, hands raised. Underneath, lines stacked like dominoes ready to fall. One said I looked fake, another called me aggressive. A third asked my daughter for part 2. You want this approval, I asked, eyes on her. She shrugged with one shoulder, casual posture, shaky breath. It proves I was right, she answered, not quite steady. Or it proves you found a crowd, I countered softly. She pocketed the device and squared herself toward me. You embarrassed me in front of everyone, she said, short and hot. You embarrassed me by joining in, I said, low and clear. The words hung there like a pulled fire alarm. We stood by the curb while traffic hissed past. I felt the urge to fix it with speed. Give me the account, I said, palm open. Her lips pressed together, then loosened, then stiffened again. I'm not a little kid, she threw back with sparks. I won't be handled like property, she stepped away. I'm asking for partnership, I answered, holding my ground. She looked at my shoes as if they argued. Another ping loud in the slim space between us. She checked it without hiding the motion. It's her, she whispered, eyes jumping with surprise. The woman messaged me and thanked me. That hit different, like ice dropped into a hot pan. What does she want? I asked, keeping my face calm. She wants me to go live later, she said. I felt my shoulders rise and refused to let them. Turn it down, I said, steady as I am. It's wrong. She says people need the truth, she pushed back. Truth doesn't need a stage like that, I answered. She traced a line on her sleeve, stalling for time. Why should I choose you over being honest? She asked. Because today got loaded with strangers and adrenaline, I said. Because judgment in a pack feels easier than thinking. She watched my mouth like every word was a test. I'll talk to her myself, I offered, calm, controlled. Her eyebrow jumped like it hit a wire. You'll make it worse, hands lifted, fingers tense as claws. That's your fear talking, I said, though mine hummed too. We moved again, aiming for the lot. Two teens jogged past and glanced at her twice. Was that your dad from the clip? One asked. She slipped behind me and let them keep going. See, she whispered, voice thinner than before. This is already bigger than us, her shoulders tightened. Then shrink it, I urged, pointing to her pocket. Start with that button you used to upload. Her thumb hovered, then retreated, then hovered again. What if I lose people? She murmured, not looking up. Lose them, I said, each word a short step. If they stay, they'll ask for more blood. She stared at the blank of the sky, breathing through doubt. Then she opened the app and dragged the clip downward. Her hand shook tiny tremor, then steadied as it vanished. A fresh alert still blinked, the woman again. Answer her, I said, not raising the volume. Tell her you won't be part of a replay. She typed fast, then paused with her thumb waiting. What if she calls me a liar? She asked. Let her, I said, meeting her eyes without flinching. You owe me a direct conversation, not another broadcast. She finished the message and sent it, one clean action. My spine eased a notch, but only a notch. The next buzz came sharper, short words on the screen. She says we're dodging accountability, my daughter read. She wants me to confirm you bumped her. The old heat pressed up again, asking to be used. Tell her we'll speak face to face, I answered. Tell her I'm open to witnesses who were actually there. Not the ones angling for views, I added, firm, not loud. She typed that too, eyes flicking to my expression. Silence, then 3 dots, then nothing. She locked the phone and let her hands fall. I don't know if I did the right thing, she admitted. I heard myself exhale longer than I meant to. We'll know when we see how we behave next, I said. Not when the feed decides our value. She nodded once small, honest, then looked away fast. I'll probably hate you for a while, she muttered. Okay, I answered, stepping closer without touching. Just don't recruit bystanders to help. Her mouth twitched almost a grin, then flattened again. I can't promise grace, she said, but I can promise private. We headed toward the car with new terms between us. A shadow of relief slid in and refused to sit. I could feel a second storm building somewhere off stage. This time I intended to choose the ground before it hit. The doorbell rattled twice, hard, urgent. I checked the peephole and saw her on the step. My daughter paused on the stairs, breath caught halfway. I unlocked the deadbolt and chose to keep the chain. Let's correct the record on live, her knuckles tapped the wood. No streaming, I answered through the gap, clear and plain. Then you're hiding, she pushed, face tilted for advantage. My daughter hovered behind me, fingers tight on the rail. Talk here, no cameras, I offered, palm up through the crack. She lifted her device like a badge of office. People want closure, she insisted, eyes bright with pressure. I waited one beat, then unhooked the chain slowly. Pockets, I said, pointing me then her, then my kid. She rolled a shoulder, then slid the phone away. My daughter slipped hers into the hoodie and met my eyes. Fine, the woman muttered, but her jaw kept moving. We retrace what happened, I said, stepping back one pace. She mimed our earlier collision with theatrical bumps. I kept my stance neutral and measured her spacing. My daughter watched the woman's feet and didn't blink. You leaned in first, I said, marking the distance with toes. No, your shoulder clipped me, she snapped, leaning forward again. Hold, my daughter cut in, palm raised between us. That angle doesn't match what I remember, she added, strained. Across the sidewalk, a neighbor lifted a screen to record. I raised 2 fingers without looking away. Stop. The woman waved the neighbor closer, like calling a pet. My daughter faced the lens and shook her head hard. Not your show, she told the neighbor, voice low but sharp. The neighbor hesitated, then lowered the device halfway. The woman smirked and tried to reclaim the rhythm. You backing him again, or do I need proof? She prodded. My daughter's throat worked once, then she squared her shoulders. I won't be used, she said, eyes steady on. The woman. Good, I added quietly, letting it land between us. The woman's smile thinned until it showed her teeth. She pulled out a screenshot and flashed it quick. You promised a session tonight, she taunted, tapping the glass. I changed my mind, my daughter replied, hands at her sides. Then I post the raw angle, the woman threatened, giddy. Let's get footage, I said, hearing my pulse slow. Plaza cameras, neutral eyes, we live with whatever shows. The woman's eyebrows arched as if I'd misplayed the hand. My daughter looked at me like I'd stepped onto ice. Now the woman challenged, already turning toward the car. We're going, I answered, grabbing keys with deliberate calm. My daughter slid beside me and buckled without a word. I felt the decision lock and I didn't fight it. At the office, a guard met us with a practiced gaze. No releases without a report, he recited, hands folded. The woman snorted and leaned on the counter for effect. Call the police then, I said, keeping my voice level. That's dramatic, she laughed, but her foot tapped fast. You said neutral eyes, I reminded, nodding toward the hall. The guard lifted a phone and spoke in clipped phrases. My daughter's stare stayed on me, searching for wobble. An officer arrived and took down crisp details. Any witnesses, he asked, pen hovering over the pad. The woman rattled off handles, not names or numbers. We'll request video from the Plaza network, he concluded, businesslike. It takes time, the officer added, closing his notebook. That delay helps him, the woman snapped, pointing at my chest. Delay helps accuracy, I replied and felt the room tilt. My daughter exhaled, quiet, shaky, and held the edge of the counter. Outside, the woman whipped out her device again. Countdown starts now, she announced to the empty air. Don't, my daughter cut in, stepping forward without looking back. The woman smirked, then backed away with a little bow. In the car, silence thudded like a second heartbeat. You gambled big, my daughter whispered, eyes on the dash. I'd rather lose to the truth than win the feed, I said. She nodded once, then rubbed her knuckles like they hurt. A banner flashed on her lock screen, teaser for tonight. She stared at it, then looked straight at me. Block and go dark 24 hours, I told her. She hovered over the option, then hit it with force. Now what if the footage shows you wrong, she asked. Then I own it right here, not on a stage, I answered. She studied my face longer than comfort, then looked away. We're not finished, she murmured, and she was right. The officer's card dug into my pocket like a reminder. When the call comes, we stand where we set our line. No chorus, no borrowed fury, no rented justice. And still, something waited just beyond the next ring. The unknown number jarred me awake, 2 rings, then silence. I called back and the officer answered on the first beat. "Footage is ready for review," crisp voice, no fluff. My daughter stood in the doorway and squared herself for impact. We stepped into the viewing room and faced the monitor. She folded her arms and kept her spine at attention. The door clicked behind us, our visitor already waiting and alert. "Roll it," I said, and my jaw locked for whatever came. Angle 1 showed a blur of shoulders and fast steps. I moved through the frame, hands open, mouth set. The other figure cut across my path and jabbed forward. My daughter leaned closer and didn't breathe until it looped. Angle 2 caught the approach from higher ground, clean and wide. The collision never happened, just a feint and a poke. My stance held while the other person performed for onlookers. My daughter's throat worked once, then she whispered for pause. Again, her finger tracked the entry and the shove. She tapped the timestamp and looked past me at our guest. "You trimmed this out of your upload," she said, voice steady. No answer, just a little smile that tried to shrug. Angle 3 pinned the moment she backed me publicly. Her nod read like a cue card held to the lens. The room tightened and I felt heat rise, not rage. "Keep going," I said, because stopping would cost more. The officer halted the reel and faced the table. "2 options," he stated, measured and firm. "File a report or document a mutual resolution." My daughter watched my face and waited for a cue. "I want terms," I said, palms flat on the edge. "No more contact, take down anything naming us, no more bait. If error remains, we correct it directly, not online." My daughter lifted her chin and nodded once to seal it. Our visitor laughed and called it spin dressed as virtue. My daughter turned and didn't flinch. "I'm filing a correction today," she said, each word deliberate. "And I'm done performing for strangers who clap at pain." The officer typed notes and closed the folder with finality. "Footage is archived for 90 days, he added, procedural but heavy. Any retaliation triggers charges." He looked at each of us. I thanked him once and let the silence say the rest. Outside, a guy angled toward us with a smirk ready. "Where's the tough act now?" he blurted, stepping too close. My daughter moved between us and raised a flat palm. "Back off," she told him, eyes locked, and he drifted. In the car, she stared at her screen without opening it. "I'll post the correction, nothing flashy, just facts." "No comments," I said, and she nodded at once. We answered to the truth, not the noise waiting to feed. We reached the house and I said a simple line. "In public, we stand shoulder to shoulder, even if unsure. At home, we challenge each other hard and clean." She breathed in, held it, then tapped my fist to mark it. A message buzzed before we finished dinner and reset. The sender used a new account and a fake grin. "Round 2 tonight," it teased and linked a countdown. I felt my pulse slow on purpose. Storm 2 had arrived. The countdown hit 0 on the throwaway account and flashed again. I grabbed the keys and she blocked the door with her arm. "We picked the ground," I said, and she gave one tight nod. We stepped out together, already braced for incoming heat. On the way, I called the officer and kept it brief. "Harassment event likely," I reported, voice steady and slow. "Stay visible and notify on-site security," he answered without drama. I hung up and felt the plans settle like armor. We reached the mall early and chose the security desk. My daughter signed the visitor log with a clipped motion. "If they film here, we escalate," I told the guard. He raised a hand in agreement, already scanning the corridor. They arrived in a cluster, phones up, energy looking for sparks. The woman stopped 10 feet out and lifted her chin. "No edits tonight," she announced, eyes skimming for allies. My daughter stepped forward a pace and didn't look away. "No streaming in this zone," the guard called from the desk. They pivoted sideways and began recording from the boundary line. We'll keep it legal, the woman grinned, almost playful and cold. I lifted my hand, palm out, and held my place. I've posted the correction, my daughter said, screen facing down. It stands, we won't feed your live version. The woman laughed and gestured to her cameraman to pan. A ripple of noise answered from watchers nesting nearby. Then admit your dad shoved me, she declared with a flourish. Mall cameras disagree, I replied, tone even and controlled. Officer reviewed, archive retained 90 days. Her mouth twitched, anger or calculation, I couldn't tell. A guy from her group cut in fast and loud. Old man is scared, he taunted, chest puffed for display. My daughter snapped her gaze to him and planted her feet. Back up 2 paces, she ordered, voice flat and iron. He smirked and edged closer until I smelled his challenge. I shifted half a step and lined my shoulder with his. 2, I repeated, counting down with a level stare. He retreated 1 then another, eyes darting toward the lens. Enough posturing, let's make news, the woman chirped brightly. She reached toward my daughter with a quick grab for the pocket. I intercepted with my forearm and redirected the wrist hard. Her phone skittered and the room took a sharp breath. Security surged between us and drew a line with bodies. Violation of posted policy, the lead announced, crisp and final. Lower devices or leave within 1 minute. The cameraman filmed the floor and muttered about rights. You wanted fairness, the woman shouted over the warning. Fairness looks like transparency, not hiding behind authority. My daughter pulled up the correction post and held it. Transparency looks like this, she answered, hand steady and brave. The guard started a countdown, voice like a metronome. 60, the woman scanned faces for a savior and found none. 30, I kept my breathing slow and my hands visible. 10, her crew shuffled, loyalty fading under numbers. Final chance, the guard finished, leaving no room for flair. She glared at me, then at the space we had claimed. This isn't done, she hissed, backing away with brittle dignity. They peeled off in 2s, still filming shadows for scraps. When they cleared the threshold, the guard relaxed 1 notch. We'll file the incident, he noted, tapping a form with purpose. Any future contact gets immediate removal. I thanked him once and waited for the next shoe. It dropped as a new ping hit my daughter's lock screen. A private channel invite glowed like bait in a dark pond. Join for the real story, the note promised, slick and bold. She looked at me and hovered over decline. Block and archive, I said, not raising the volume. She saved the header for the officer and muted the thread. Done, she whispered, jaw working hard to stay calm. I watched her hands still, then unclench for the first time. What? On the walk out, a teen cut across our path. Respect for owning the clip, she threw over her shoulder. My daughter blinked, surprised by the clean hit of it. Respect for changing your mind, the teen added, already gone. We reached the car and sat with engines off. I almost let her touch my phone, my daughter admitted. I moved late and you caught it before me. You moved it all, I answered, and that mattered more. We still owe each other rules, she said, eyes forward. In public we hold one story, in private we argue hard. I nodded and felt something locked finally give way. She breathed out slowly and released a week of noise. Another alert pulsed, louder than the others all night. The officer's name filled the screen with a short instruction. Come by tomorrow for next steps, the message read. I knew tomorrow would test whether tonight actually changed us. The officer waved us in and set the folder down. We have the plaza angles in the mall incident, clipped and calm. Do you want a protective order or a written pact? My daughter laced her fingers and held my gaze like a rope. Pact first, I answered, voice steady by choice. If it breaks, we escalate without debate. She nodded once, then faced the desk head-on. We signed together, she added, jaw set for impact. The door opened before the pen touched paper. She walked in with a legal pad and a brittle smile. Make it quick, she tossed, eyes sliding over us. The officer placed 2 forms between us like a chess move. Terms, I said, tapping the first line for clarity. Remove posts naming us, stop contacting from any account. No public ambushes, no staged confrontations, no bait. My daughter pulled a breath and didn't blink once. And if footage clears me, you acknowledge it plainly, I added. No rehearsed half-truths, no cute winks to the crowd. Her smirk flickered, then hardened again with effort. At your own risk too, she replied, squaring up. If videos show my fault, I'll put that in writing, I said. I'll apologize directly and not for show. Silence held the room long enough to sting. She rolled her wrist and read each line twice. Fine, she initialed the margins with quick, sharp strokes. She looked at my daughter, and you. I already posted an update, my daughter answered, palm open. I'll pin it after this and leave comments closed. The officer stamped the copies and slid them across. Breach triggers charges, he reminded, neutral but unmistakable. She tucked her copy away with a dry laugh. This won't change the story people like, she muttered, daring us. It changes mine, my daughter shot back, shoulders squared. And mine, I added, not breaking eye contact. The officer opened the door without fanfare. Take separate exits, he instructed, and we listened. In the hall, my daughter stopped short and pulled her phone. Let me do it here, she said, thumbs hovering. She typed the pinned note, clear, spare, accountable. I watched her hands stop shaking as it went live. A new message surfaced before we reached the stairs. Private invite, limited access, same voice as last night. Join our space for the truth, it teased with urgency. My daughter smirked, small, tired, and hit block without ceremony. Outside, a stranger approached and started a question. Are you the, he aborted when he saw our faces. Not today, I told him, and he backed away fast. My daughter slid closer until our arms brushed. We still need our rules, she said, voice low but clear. In crowds, we cover each other first, I answered. At home, we argue honestly, and we fix what we can. She nodded, then held out her closed fist like a contract. We drove to the plaza to finish what began there. I stood at the edge and traced the path with my shoe. Here's where I kept quiet to survive, I said. Here's where we speak clean, not loud, she answered, matching my step. A boy on a scooter slowed and glanced at us. Was that you two on that channel? He asked, unsure. Old clip, new facts, my daughter replied, steady and brief. He shrugged and rolled on, interest gone without fuel. My phone buzzed with the officer's final note. Paper filed, copy delivered, surveillance retained. No flourish, no commentary, just the structure we needed. I exhaled and felt the week release its grip. At home, she opened her contacts and scrolled to a name. I'm calling her, she said, eyes on the floor. I won't grovel for show, I'll speak and end it. She tapped the icon and held the phone to her ear. I withdrew from the stream plan, she began, voice level. I posted a correction and pinned it permanently. I won't appear in your content again, and that's final. She listened, then ended the call without giving it oxygen. She turned to me, face bare of the earlier armor. I can repair with you, but not with a crowd. I'll get it wrong again, and I'll fix it sooner. I felt pride and grief collide. Then settle into something useful. We wrote our own pact on a torn receipt. No witnesses, no stamps, just 2 signatures and a line. Stand tight in public when unsure, challenge hard in private. Trust is rebuilt by choices, not claps. Night stretched and no alerts pierced the quiet. We cleaned the last fragments of the day without ceremony. She slid the receipt under a magnet and paused. I'll defend you first, she said, and left the sentence burning.